Haha, wee wee. Hey, what's up everybody, it's your girl Amanda. Welcome to my channel, The Buzzed Artist, a place where you can just let loose and have fun with acrylic paint. So today, we are going to be going to Paris, France, and we will be painting a beautiful Parisian scene looking at the Eiffel Tower, and we'll be also featuring some lampposts, a little sign, and some really beautiful little, I guess, pussy willows or some sort of foliage happening in the background. So be sure to grab your supplies and come meet me. I'm going to show you exactly how to do this.
Okay, we're going to start off with an 8x10 pre-gessoed canvas, and the paints we'll be using today will be white, yellow, red, and black. And as for brushes, we have a 3/4 inch flat wash brush, a number 10 filbert brush, a number 10 shader brush, and a number 0 detail round brush. A list of all the supplies we'll be using will be in the description below. So I'll be taking the 3/4 inch flat wash brush, dip it in water, and then I'm going to dip it in some yellow, and I'm just going to add a little bit of red to that to give it a little bit of an orange. Then I'm going to take my brush broadside down. I'm going to make vertical strokes, and now I'm not going to cover my entire canvas. I want to give like essence of color, so I'm very lightly making those strokes. And I'm also going to turn my brush horizontally and create some horizontal strokes represent the city streets. And don't forget to do the sides of your canvas as well. Now I'm going to take some black and a little bit of white, and I'm going to make a gray color. And with that gray color broadside down, I'm going to blend it in with the previous color that we laid down prior, doing the same vertical and horizontal strokes. And I'm very lightly pressing down with my brush. I'm not like pressing my brush really hard into the canvas so I can get that nice, very light color. And I'm adding water as I go. Now I'm going to go ahead and add some white to this, and I'm going to start to blend the two colors together with the white. I love using white for this because now you're creating this nice washed effect to help create that very wet scene in Paris. So I'm just very lightly taking the white, adding a lot of water, and just going according to the brush strokes and very lightly blending in all of the colors together. Now I'm going to take my number 10 shader, I'm going to wet it, and I'm going to add some black and some white to create a bit of a white texture. Now I'm going to make the Eiffel Tower, so I'm going to start with a diagonal line, then I'm going to make a plateau. Then I'm going to start on the second tier of the Eiffel Tower, so I'm going to do another line, and it's going to start to curve up in a straight line, do another plateau, and then do another line on top of that vertically. And I'm going to repeat the same on the other side. Once I have that, I'm just going to go ahead and start to fill in the topmost portion as well as the bottom portions. I'm going to make the legs. So I got the legs, I do a little bit of a semicircle to represent the underneath part of the tower. Then I'm going to start to fill that in, and the middle portion of that Eiffel Tower, it does have a little bit of a space in between, like a triangle, so I'm going to leave that untouched. Now I'm going to take my number 10 shader and I'm going to dip it in some black and a little bit of white. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the illusion of just like branches and bushes and all these things that are kind of happening in the background here. So I'm just taking my brush and turning it onto the tip and very lightly brushing it onto the background. Next, I'm going to take my 3/4 inch flat wash brush and I'm putting a little bit of water on it, and I'm just trying to spread the rest of that paint so it looks a lot more washed and blended into the background. And again, very light touches with the canvas. I'm going to take my number 10 shader once again, give it a good rinse, add some black, and then I'm going to go ahead and make the streets. So I'm going to start with 2 lines. These are really just a series of lines at this point. I'm just using the tip of my brush to go ahead and do this. Because you're using a shader, this is going to come really easy. So then you're going to take your filbert brush, add some white to it, and you're going to go ahead now and just fill in the areas here with some white. Again, I'm just using a very light touch with my brush just to help spread out that paint just a little bit. I don't want to cover this entire thing with white, I just want to give it the essence of white. I still want to have some of that color underneath peeping out. And I will correct myself when I say that this is actually the shader brush we're using, not the filbert. but I'm just going to continue to kind of fill in the rest of the walkway. Now I'm going to go to my detail round brush. I'm going to dip it in some black, and I'm going to start to do the details of our Eiffel Tower. So I'm just doing like the outline versions of it and trying to give it some structure. So I'm kind of very much making the underside portion of the Eiffel Tower here, so I'm just filling that part in on the underneath here. And I'm just making sure that my brush is still pretty heavily wet when I'm doing this, because I do want to have those nice crisp lines when I'm doing this with the paint. So I'm just going to go ahead and do the under arches of the Eiffel Tower, as well as just continue doing the outlines of the tower itself. And I'm just taking liberties here, just kind of having fun with it. This is, you know, an abstract kind of interpretation of the Eiffel Tower itself, so I'm allowing myself to have a little bit more free reign with this. Next, I'm going to do like a cross pattern at the very bottom, just to represent like that very intricate structure for the Eiffel Tower. Now I'm going to take my number 10 shader brush. I'm going to add in some gray, and I'm going to go ahead and make a tree. So when you make a tree with a shader, you just turn it onto its tip and just draw a line, and then you just continue making those lines into trees. So again, when it comes to branches, always think about making the letter Y, and you're just using your tip all the time when you're doing this. Pretty simple, and you want to make sure your brush is nice and wet. Okay, next we're just going to add a little bit of black to the brush, and I'm just going to go ahead and just reinforce some of the brush work in the background here. This is once again just to kind of give it that illusion that there's something going on here. And now once again with my shader brush, I dip it in black and making sure it's nice and wet. I'm going to make lampposts. So I make the base, and again with the tip of my brush, I'm just going to make a straight line going up just like so. So this is the foremost lamppost, is the one that's closest to the viewer. Then there's another one in the back that's a little smaller in length, and another one behind that one that's also smaller in length. Then once I'm good with the lengths, I'm going to go to the other side on the left and do 2 other lines. Now I'm going to head over with my number 10 filbert. I'm going to dip it in some water and add some white, and I'm going to go ahead and actually do the lamppost lamps themselves. So I'm just going to do a circle. I'm just going to take my brush broadside down and just draw out or paint out a circle shape and fill it in. And you're going to want to do this for all of the lampposts in this picture. So you got 3 on the right and 2 on the left. Next, you're going to take your detail round brush, you're going to dip it in some water with some white, and then you're going to go ahead and add some like pussy willows, or I guess just like white foliage kind of going into the background here. So I'm overlaying that over the black brushes in the back here, kind of intercepting that with parts of the Eiffel Tower, so it creates this abundance, this illusion of abundance. So I'm doing that around the tree itself, going into the Eiffel Tower, and onto the tree branches too. And I'm not afraid to kind of let it grow over to the Eiffel Tower portion as well, and covering some of that. That's what actually makes this really cool and fun and natural looking. Next, I'm going to take my brush, once again with some white, and I'm going to add in just little tiny details on the Eiffel Tower itself with some white accents. This again is just a creative effect. I'm going to take my black now, and I'm just going to make little pedestals for my little lampposts. Next, I'm going to take my filbert brush, add some black and some white to make some gray, and I'm just going to make shadows. So when I'm making the shadows, I'm just making lines going horizontally from the lamppost itself. And I'm just adding little details with that same color, just adding a little bit of color variation. Next, I'm going to take some yellow, mix it in with some white, and I'm just going to go ahead and just break up some of that shadow there so it's not as blatant. So I'm just really using that brush to break it up a little bit. So now I'm going to add in a bit of white on top of my canvas here, and I'm literally very lightly playing with the brush and putting the paint on very, very, very lightly with my brush. Again, this is all about layers, so I'm just taking my time with the colors. And again, I'm going into the background here and playing with my color variation. I do want to get more of a washed look. I don't want to make it as yellow looking. So I just go ahead and play around with that as well. And again, light strokes. Light strokes wins the race with this. Always go nice and easy. Next, I'm going to take my shader brush and I'm going to dip it in some red because we're going to be making that metro sign on that lamppost. So I'm going to start with a straight line, make another line, and pretty much make a rectangle, fill that in. And I'm going to have to do several layers of this, so I'll probably add a little bit of white to this so I can cover up that little line in the lamppost there. Take my number 0 detail round brush and I'm going to dip it in some white. And then I'm just going to spell out the words Metro. Now make sure that your paint and your brush is very wet when you're doing this because you want to get those nice smooth lines for your letters. And there you have it. You have your very own, very cute Parisian scene on this beautiful day.
Paris holds the key to l'amour. Such a good time, I love it. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please be sure to give it a like and to subscribe to my channel. Hit that like button so that you can see more helpful video tutorials from me in the future. Hey you! Yeah you, I'm talking to you. If you have any ideas of what you would like to see in my next tutorial, please be sure to comment below. I want to hear all of your suggestions. I will talk to you all next time. Bye!